We thank you for coming along for the start of what is sure to be a wild ride. I'm Dan Kennedy. We're also seeing a drop in new cases. Check it out. 4 straight days statewide with fewer than 5,000 cases. You have to go back to late December to find that. And if this trend continues, we may look back at this week as the beginning of the end of the pandemic in Virginia. They've since cleaned up a lot of the glass that we've seen on the sidewalk, but it's still leaving small businesses like this Mediterranean Grill with cleanup of their own. And the two parties are sparing no expense getting their candidates' message out. In fact, public records show nearly $5.5 million shelled out for Luria ads, almost $3.2 million for Taylor ads. More than half of all this cash not coming from the campaigns themselves, but from super PACs. 6:54, and you're watching History in the Making here on 13 News Now Daybreak. The Johnny Reb Confederate statue in downtown Norfolk has officially been lifted off its pedestal, and it has been removed from the 80-foot monument. And what the city decides is best for what's next for this Confederate statue. But we can tell you this morning, it is no longer in the heart of downtown at Commercial Place for the first time in 113 years. Yes. She said some, quite frankly, didn't like taking direction from an African-American female. So this is one side of the story.
Absolutely.
We just got Chapman's letter. We are going to reach out to the city of Portsmouth. One person is dead there. The search is ongoing right now. In fact, you see those searchers sifting through debris piles, looking for anybody who may still be living. There are at least 3 people missing on Morning Drive in Bertie County, and ABC News reporting 20 people hurt. An emotional news conference just wrapping up, and a lengthy one at that. 25 minutes. You heard from Dave Hansen, the city manager of Virginia Beach, as he read off the names of 12 people killed yesterday in that mass shooting at the Municipal Center. Many of them were his friends. Let's get straight to that list. And Herbert Burt Snelling, a contractor from Virginia Beach, who was just there trying to fill a permit. Those are the names of the 12 people lost yesterday in Virginia Beach.
And Dan Kennedy, our friend at Secret Santa from our Norfolk affiliate, 13 News Now. He is there with them, and good morning to you, Dan.
This is the largest naval base in the world here at Naval Station Norfolk. As you mentioned, one lucky military family is going to be getting their layaway paid off. I'm happy to be joined by one of those military families right now. I've got the name right here in my pocket. And you see what that says? It's everyone!
Everybody deserves it.
We'll send it back to you, Michael.
All right, Dan, thank you so much. How amazing is that?
Ask most police officers and they'll tell you law enforcement is not a career, it's a calling. For Michaela Beasley, that calling came when she was a young teen.
I had always known that I wanted to be an officer. I just didn't know how to go about it.
Can you see?
When Beasley was 15, her dad took her to the Chesapeake Police Department to meet with an officer, any officer.
Detective Boykin at the time comes down and starts talking to me, and I'm like, this is what I want to do.
We started meeting up and going to lunch and talking, and the last 4 years we've just gotten close and just kind of guided her on her path to where she is now.
Sergeant Dorian Boykin saw some of herself in Beasley, who just this fall took the oath to protect and serve. She graduated from one of Chesapeake's most diverse police academies ever.
Hands on the back of the head. The shooters down at the bus garage.
At a time when recruiting minorities to the force is a nationwide challenge.
In the reform police atmosphere, people want to know what your department looks like. We need to be transparent.
Larry Boone is chief of police in Norfolk.
We have a host of all races here, and it's important that we represent the city.
Perhaps easier said than done. African Americans make up 40% of Norfolk, but just 19% of the police force.
We're not quite where we need to be. We've still got work to do by way of diversity. Not just us. Virginia Beach, Portsmouth, Newport News, Hampton, Richmond, everybody else do too. And we can go out of the state and look at some other places. This is not just a Norfolk issue, this is a country issue.
And that's true. Nationally, 1 out of every 10 cops is black. It's about the same in Virginia Beach, 1 in 10. In Chesapeake and Newport News, about 1 in 7 are black. In Norfolk and Suffolk, 1 out of 5. In Portsmouth and Hampton, for every 4 officers, 1 of them is black. But compare that to local census data, and you'll find that none of these departments come close to mirroring the demographics of the communities they serve. About 40% of the Hampton Roads population is black, compared to just 18% of the officers in this region.
An incident in Minneapolis, set everything back.
Chief Boone stood by demonstrators this summer as they demanded justice for George Floyd. Floyd's murder and fallout from it is making recruiting and retaining officers even tougher.
I will say in the last 4 to 5 months, folks have sat right there and said, Chief, I can't do this anymore. I've never seen anything like this. You got police chiefs resigning, not just officers, police chiefs.
But for every officer leaving, others are signing up for service.
It definitely put a lot into perspective, being African American and being a female, but that didn't change what I wanted to do and what I'm here for and what I wanted to be a police officer for.
Michaela Beasley.
Beasley's dream of being a cop never wavered. And on graduation night, it was Beasley's mom who pinned her badge, knowing for her daughter, this is not a career, but a calling. Dan Kennedy, 13 News Now.
All the stuff that comes with it, fines and penalties.
This Hampton Roads man is a proud father, husband, and Navy veteran. The one thing he never thought he'd be is a felon.
I have never been in trouble a day in my life, ever. And this is the first time he ever get in trouble anywhere. And I got the book thrown at me.
Michael, as we'll call him, is telling his story anonymously. He was in his 20s when a medical condition required dialysis and a kidney transplant, and that's when he began experimenting with marijuana.
I was speaking with a nurse, and she just kind of like mentioned it to me, like, hey, you should try it.
Michael did, and he found it worked, but his choice of medicine was illegal in Virginia, and buying it on the black market proved dangerous. You came close to losing your life?
Yeah, I had a gun drawn on me in Newport News, and the guy robbed me for $160. He could have took more than that night, and I was just happy to make it home to my wife and my son.
Police eventually caught Michael and charged him with 2 felonies, the first and only blemish on an otherwise clean record. And the judge showed leniency, opting for probation instead of prison. What's that like for somebody who's never been in trouble up till now to have the word felon by your name?
I feel dirty. I feel like I've committed a crime, like a real crime, like I murdered someone, or like I've done something really bad.
Had Michael been arrested this year, the outcome might be different. Virginia lawmakers voted to decriminalize certain marijuana possession last year and allow for medical cannabis sales. Now, Governor Ralph Northam wants to take it a step further and legalize recreational use, pointing to a history of racial disparities as a driving force.
We know that while white people and black people use marijuana at similar rates, black people are 3.5 times more likely to be charged with a crime for it.
For Michael, it's been several years since his arrest. His probation is now over, but his medical issues are not, and neither are the long-term consequences of living life with a felony. If this is legalized, if your record is expunged, what will you be able to do with your life at that point?
Go back to school, further my career, and just be back to my productive life. I don't have to walk on eggshells.
The key word there, expunged. Michael will always be a felon in the eye of the law unless lawmakers decide to change that too. Tomorrow, in part 2 of our Pot for Profit series, hear from the local prosecutor who says it's time to wipe the records clean for people like Michael. Dan Kennedy, 13 News Now.
This is disgraced former Congressman Scott Taylor.
Remember this? I'll listen to you, not corporate donors and not party leaders. Elaine Luria lied.
By now, you've seen the commercials. Ads both for and against Scott Taylor and Congresswoman Elaine Luria.
Lights, camera, Elaine. Actress Elaine Luria loves the highlights.
So many of them negative.
Why run the negative ads?
Well, you have to ask her that question, why she's, again, I see it, her only path to victory is to not tout her record and what she's done or hasn't done, where she hasn't been here. It is to smash me and just smear me.
I run ads that, point out my opponent's record.
A judge called it out-and-out fraud.
I call it hurtful, Mr. Taylor, and disqualifying.
Also have an ad talking about the ongoing investigation into the petition fraud scandal, where 3 of his staff members have been indicted and 2 convicted from the last campaign.
Do you think that Mr. Taylor knew about the 2018 signatures?
I think he did. I definitely believe that he did.
Look, sometimes you just got to set the record straight.
Taylor, for his part, says he's innocent, and he's using a new ad to reinforce that.
In fact, even the Washington Post says Taylor has not been accused of wrongdoing.
I've been very clear from the get-go that I knew nothing about any wrongdoing. There is 0 direct evidence to show otherwise. Elaine Luria has known that for 2 years. She ran the same campaign 2 years ago.
And the 2 parties are sparing no expense getting their candidates' message out. In fact, public records show nearly $5.5 million shelled out for Luria ads, almost $3.2 million for Taylor ads. More than half of all this cash not coming from the campaigns themselves, but from super PACs like the Democrats' House Majority PAC or the Republicans' Congressional Leadership Fund. And oftentimes, it's those PAC-backed commercials that get the ugliest.
Scott Taylor, he's just as crooked as a dog's hind leg.
Liberal Elaine Luria, just another dishonest politician we can't trust.
In the end, both candidates say the ads are their chance to defend their political and personal records. Dan Kennedy, 13 News Now.